Hello, this is part two of Universal Math Placement Exam 10. So we're just gonna finish off. So I finished off 23. So let's continue to 24. So 24 says solve 4 minus square root of 3x equals square root of 3x minus 2. So the first thing I would do is I would square both sides. I don't think I would move this through square root of 3x to the right. I wouldn't do that. What I would do is just square both sides. So on the right, when you square a radical, it disappears. So you're left with 3x minus 2. On the left, don't be fooled. This is not, do not square 4 and the radical 3x and be done with it. No, it's the same thing as this. 4 minus square root of 3x times 4 minus square root of 3x. Then you would FOIL it out, collect like terms, etc. So what I would do is do the, you could do FOIL it out, collect like terms, but I'm going to do the shortcut. The shortcut is parentheses a minus b squared equals a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. A is 4 and my b is square root of 3x. So a is 4, so it's 4 squared minus 2 times a, which is 4, and then my b is square root of 3x plus b squared, so that's going to be square root of 3x squared. And then on the right, you're left with 3x minus 2. So 4 squared is 16. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8 square root of 3x. And then square root of 3x squared is 3x. So then what I would do is subtract 3x from both sides. So it's going to be negative 2. And you get 16 minus 8 square root of 3x. And then maybe subtract 16 from both sides. Let me put it here. So now you have negative 8 square root of 3x equals to, sorry, this is not an x, it's negative 16. That'd be negative 18. And then divide this by negative 8. And get square root of 3x is positive 18 over 8. Did I make a mistake? No, so then maybe I can reduce this by, I think I'll make your life easier. 18 over 8 can be reduced by 9. Divided by 2 is 4. 1 the square root of 3x. And then you square both sides. So over here, when you square the radical, it just disappears. We're left with 3x. And here we have 9 squared is 81, 4 squared is 16, and then solve for x. So I can divide both sides by 3, or I can multiply both sides by the root of 4. I'm going to do that. So what's 81 over 16 times 1? Though that's 81 over 16 times 3 is 8. We'll see my answer. No, because maybe it could be reduced by no. Wait, how about 30? 81 divided by 3 is 27. 48 divided by 3 is 16. Yes, 27 over 16. So that's 11. Okay, question 25. We have 3 over x minus 2, negative 1 minus 2. So what I would do is before I'm gonna move this -2 to the right, so I'm gonna add 2. So you have 3 over x plus 2 equals to 3, or 3 over 1. Then I may cross multiply. Yeah, I'm gonna cross multiply, because you only have two sides, the left and the right. So cross multiply is 3, and this is gonna be 3 times x plus 2. 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 2 is 6. And then move this 6 to the left. So 3 minus 6 is -3, which is 3x. And divide this by 3, you get x equals -1. 26. What measure of spread describes the difference between the highest and the lowest value of the data set? So yeah, basically the highest minus the lowest is your range. So when you're taking the range, you take the highest value minus the lowest. So D. Okay. Divide 12x cubed minus 11x squared plus 9x plus 18 by 4x plus 3. There's two ways you can do this. Because 4x plus 3 is linear, you can do synthetic. So yeah, you can do synthetic or long division. I don't know about you, but I like synthetic because it's just easier. So let's do that. Put this little box. If 4x plus 3 is my factor, what's the actual solution? The actual solution is just set that to 0 and self-regs. That's negative 3 fourths. Okay. Then what I would do is look at these numbers, look at the coefficient, and make sure it's in order. So we have power 3, 2, a 1, and then a constant, right? So everything is ordered, so we don't have to worry about missing anything. So just use the coefficients. So starting with x cubed is 12, x squared is -11, x1 is 9, and then 18 is 12 powers of 18. And then placeholder under 12, so it's 0. So 12 plus 0 is 12. 12 times -3/4 is, you have to write it out, that's fine. What's -9? Right? 12 times -3/4 is -9, and then add them up vertically. So -11 times -9 is, I believe, -20. And then -20 times -3/4 is 60/4, which is 15. And then 9 plus 15, have them up vertically, is 24. And then 24 times -3/4 is 72, which is -18. And look, we have a remainder of 0, so that means this is a factor. So we have no remainder, so you can forget about D because it has, don't forget about D. You have no remainder. So what do we do with these numbers? We have 12 and -12, 20 and +25. These are coefficients. So it's going to be 12x. And then instead of the highest power was originally 3. So instead of 3, we're going to go 1 less. So it's going to be 2. And then it's going to be -20 x1 plus 24. And with no remainder. So do I see my answer? Don't think so. I think because I think they divide everything by 3. So if I divide everything by How about 4? Sorry, let's divide everything by 4. Let's see if we get an answer. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, x squared. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5x. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So it's 3x squared negative 5x by 6. So it looks like it's those. 28. Simplify. So we have 6 over 3 plus radical 3. What you want to do is get rid of the radical 3. So you're going to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate, which is 3 minus radical 3. Both sides, right? And then on the bottom, 3 plus radical 3 times 3 minus radical 3 is a perfect square. So it's really 3 squared minus radical 3 squared. And that gives you 9 minus, and then radical 3 squared, just the radical square, so it's 3. So 9 minus 3 is 6. So the bottom is 6, and then on the top, follow it out. So 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times negative, that's negative 6 radical 3. So you have 18 minus 6 radical 3 all over 6. And I think they're both divisible as 6, so 18 divided by 6 is 3. Negative 6 divided by 6 is minus radical 3. So it's 3 minus radical 3. Over here, negative 2 sevenths cubed, that's the same thing as negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's 4 times, that's negative 8 on the top, and then on the bottom, it's 7 times 7 times 7, so that is 7 to the third. It's 3 for the third. And I think that's it. I don't think it can be reduced necessarily, so that's an 8. Okay. What is the domain of log parentheses x minus 3? So the domain, and all you got to do is set whatever your horizontal shift or set the parentheses x minus 3. Set that greater than 0 and then solve for x. So add 3. So x is greater than 3. So that's the same thing as 3 to infinity. Okay. Now, if you want to graphically, what do we know about this log graph graphically? So we know it is a growth, right? Why is it a growth? You go to the base. There's no number on the log, but there is. It's just an implicable base of 10. So if the base is 10, which is technically greater than 1, I know it's a growth. What else do we know about this log graph? We have a horizontal shift of 3 units to the right. In a log graph, if you have a horizontal shift, that is also your vertical asymptote. So you do have a vertical asymptote at x equals 3. Okay, so what that means, it looks like this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 3. Do a vertical dash line. And then we know it's a growth, so I think it's going to look like this. So as you can see, our x value is from 3 to infinity, so b. Find the exact value of cosine 3 pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4 is a degree within the unit circle. Here it's in quadrant 2. And I know it's related to pi over 4, which has an exponent radical 2 over 2 and a y exponent radical 2 over 2. The only difference is because we are in quadrant 2, the x value is negative, so it's negative radical 2 over 2 and a y exponent radical 2 over 2. So when they say cosine, and it's a degree within the unit-circle, the cosine is the x-component. So it's just going to be negative radical 2 over 2. Question 32, consider the 2 points in the Cartesian plane, a equals 3, -2, and b equals -4, 5. Determine the exact distance. So the distance is square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So 3 is your x1, -2 is your y1. Oops, hold on. So we have 3 comma -2, and then -4 comma 5. 3 is your x1, -2 is your y1, x2, y2. So my distance is going to be square root of x2, which is -4, minus x1, which is 3 squared, plus y2, which is 5, minus y1 is -2 squared. -4 minus 3 is -7 squared. 5, 2 negatives becomes a positive, so that's 7 squared. So that's going to be -7 squared is 49. 7 squared is 49. 49 plus 49 is 98. Okay, better. Evaluate the expression with the quadratic expression when x equals 3. So basically, just plug in 3 to the function. So that's 2 times 3 squared minus 4 times 3 minus 6. That gives me 0. Letter A. Okay, this one, if y varies directly with x, if y varies directly with x and y equals 15 and x equals 5, write an equation relating to x and y. So you need to know this. If y varies directly, that's a special equation. It's y equals k times x. Then what you want to do is solve for k by their given values. So y is 15 and x is 5. So y is 15. I don't know what k is. X is 5. So that's 5k. Solve for k by dividing both sides by 5. Then k equals to 3. So it's giving y equals 3 times x. And that's it. Because they don't give us a y or an x. So it's just C. This one simplify. So what was so special about this? You need to know your exponent was, but what is so special is they're both all x's. So we can combine all of these. So let's fix the top. We have x to the -1/3 times x to the 2/3. What is your exponent rule when you're multiplying with the same base? So yeah, you add. When we multiply with the same base, you add the exponent. So what's -1/3 plus 2/3? That is 1/3. So you get x to the 1/3. Now do the bottom. Now you're dividing. So what is the rule when you're dividing with the same base? You technically subtract. So it's going to be 1/3 minus a -1/4. Two negatives becomes a positive. What is my LCD? Here you have a 3 and a 4. My LCD is 12. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 3 and multiply top and bottom by 4. So that's going to be 12 on the top, and then 4 plus 3 is 7. So your final answer is going to be x to the 7/12 D. Okay. This one, find the solution to the equation. We have cosine square of x, 3x minus 1 equals 0. You're going to have to use some kind of Pythagorean identity. What is cosine? Well, use this Pythagorean identity. Sine square of x plus cosine square of x equals to 1. And then I know that if I solve for cosine square x, I will subtract sine square of x. So cosine square x is 1 minus sine square. And then instead of x, it's really 3x plus 2. Then you have this minus 1. Well, let's see what happens. The ones disappears, and then you have negative sine square of 3x plus 2 equals 0, and then get rid of this minus by dividing those sides by -1. So you get sine square of 3x plus 2 equals to 0. Find the solution. So uh, you could actually then take the square root of both sides. So really now it is just sin of 3x plus 2 equals to 0. And then what you want to do is forget about the 3x plus 2. Worry about the sign. Where's sine 0? I think it's at pi, because that pi has a coordinate -1.0. So the sign is definitely 0. So it's going to be pi, right? Or n pi. And then you're still left with the 3x plus 2, and then solve for x by subtracting 2 from both sides. So you get 3x equals to n pi minus 2. Solve for x by dividing both sides by 3. So x equals n pi minus 2 over 3. Yeah, I think it's b. N pi minus 2. Wait, 37, simplify the expression. We have sine square of x over cosine square of x equals plus 1. So this is an identity you know. I know that regular sine of x over cosine of x is equal to tan of x, right? But there's a square, so that's going to be tan square of x. So this whole thing simplifies as tan square of x and then plus 1. Now, this is also a Pythagorean identity. Tan square of x plus 1 is equal to exactly sine square of x. I mean, not sine square, secant. SEC square of x. So letter C. Okay, almost there. Two more problems and then we're done. Solve the equation. We have 2 log base 2 of x plus 5 equals 4. So what you want to do is convert this to power form. A to the y equals x. But before I do that, I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I get log 2 of x plus 5, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now you may put this in exponent. So it's really saying the base 2 equals to y, or this number 2, equals to your x, which is x plus 5. So 2 squares 4 equals to x plus 5, and then subtract 5 from both sides. You get x equals 4 minus 5 is like. Current 39. Current average interest rate on a private student loan is 10.75%. If you took out a private loan for X dollars, the total amount of A that you owe after years of T years is given by the equation below. If you take out 20,000 to in private loans to pay first year tuition expenses, how much will you owe 4 years later, round to the nearest dollar? So this is they give you the equation. They would you kind well they kind of so X is how much you borrow, so 20,000. Rate is 1.1075. What they did was they took to find the rate, they took 100% and I think plus 10.75%. And then they convert that to decimal by moving it two close to the left. And then we're gonna replace our t with 4. And when you put it all together, you get to and I get 30,000 089 letter D. Okay, last one, and the last one is a trig problem. So okay, so what I would do is so we have sine, bracket, cosine inverse of -1/2. So what I would do is always start with the inner and then make your way out. So let's figure out what is the cosine inverse of -1/2. So what they're saying is what degree in radians gives you a cosine of -1/2. I think that is going to be right here. I think that is. Hold on. Yeah, it's 120 degrees because it has an x coordinate of -1/2 and a y coordinate of radical derivative 2, right? So you can replace this whole thing with 120 degrees, and then you have sine of 120. So what is the sine of 120? So here's 120. It's a degree within the unit circle. So the sine is the y coordinate. So that is going to be radical derivative 2. Well, let's check our work. I think, yeah, it's always going to check my work. Should get 100, but let's see. Yay, you got 100. Okay. So this is a universal math placement exam 10. So I'm going to stop here.